Hi everyone, thanks for visiting my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Carol, the Thrifty Chic Housewife, and I'm so glad that you stopped by. I hope you'll consider subscribing and follow me on social media. I have all the links to my social media in the description box below my video. So we have Thanksgiving coming up, right? And you guys are always looking for great stuffing recipes. I've had that request several times on my channel, so today I'm going to do a fun stuffing recipe for you. I do have one that I did last year that I will link in the description box below. It's just your classic stuffing, really basic, but today we're going to be doing an apple cranberry sausage stuffing. So I thought that that would be great, brings together all those delicious flavors of fall, and it's so pretty. To get started, you need a great bread. Now I used my basic sourdough bread, and I do have a video on that. I will link it for you in the description box below and also in an iCard. It is a great bread to use. It has fantastic texture and flavor to it, but you can use whatever bread you prefer. French bread works well, Italian bread works well. Whatever you have, you just want to make sure that it's either stale or that you dry it out before you use it. So I have 8 cups of my bread that I spread out on a baking sheet, and I baked it at 300 degrees for about a half an hour. It will vary depending if you make this exact recipe and just use the 8 cups. That takes about 30 minutes at 300 degrees. If you're using a larger amount, if you're doubling the recipe for a larger crowd, it'll take you longer, obviously. So about 30 minutes in a 300-degree oven to get it nice and dried out. So then we're also going to need some delicious sausage. Now, any sausage, any breakfast sausage will work great here. It's really good if you get one that has nice sage flavor to it. Perfect in this recipe. So I'm going to just be using the Bob Evans natural sausage. I enjoy this. So we're going to be using that one. You need a pound of sausage. You're going to need about a cup each of chopped onion and chopped celery. That's about 1 largish onion and about 2 to 3 stalks of celery. You're also going to need 1 apple. I'm going to be using a Fuji apple. And the apple that you use is totally up to you. Some people like a tart apple, some people like sweet. I prefer sweet, so I'm going to be using a Fuji, but it really doesn't matter here, whatever appeals to you. The other thing that you're going to need is some garlic. If you like the garlic flavor, I'm going to put some chopped fresh garlic in there. We're going to need some dried cranberries, and we're also going to be using some delicious turkey stock. And I'm going to turn it up just a little bit on the flavor I'm going to deglaze my pan with a little bit of white wine, but that's totally optional. You can just add additional stock if you prefer, but the white wine really adds a little bit of complex flavor to the background that you really don't identify as wine. I know some of you, I cook a lot with wine and liqueurs, and I know many of you say, well, I don't really like wine. Well, you don't really taste wine. It's just a really nice flavor in the background that complements everything else. So I highly encourage it. I'm going to be using Pinot Grigio, but you can use whatever you like. And typically in cooking, you use a dry wine, but I'm kind of thinking with this flavor profile, and I'm sorry that I didn't think about it when I was at the grocery store earlier. They have cranberry wine, and I think a cranberry wine or even an apple wine would be fantastic here. I know they're sweeter wines, but I think that they would be fantastic in this recipe. So don't be afraid to try whatever appeals to you. But we're only going to be using a half a cup. Like I said, it's just for a little bit of extra flavor. So use it, leave it out, however you prefer. Then for our spices, I'm going to be using dried spices today, but typically I like to use fresh, but I thought today I would show you how to use dried, since we don't always have fresh on hand, and sometimes the grocery store is out of them, especially this time of year. If you don't get your herbs early, they can run out of them. So you can either use fresh sage, rosemary, and thyme, or you can use what I'm going to do today, also fresh parsley. I'm going to be using dried parsley, and I'm going to be using poultry seasoning to season my dish. Salt and pepper, of course, that's a given. But you can use dried or you can use fresh herbs, and I will leave the amounts that I would recommend in the description box. below my video. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to brown our sausage first and then start adding our other ingredients, mix it together, and then pop it in the oven. Okay, so I have my pan on about a medium heat. To my pan, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. You can't have delicious stuffing without butter. I'll let that melt down a second. Okay, once your butter starts melting, you can go ahead and add your sausage. We're just going to cook our sausage till we get some nice color on it. Okay, once your sausage is almost done, you can go ahead and add your veggies. We're going to go ahead and add our cup of celery and our cup of onion. Give that a stir. And we're also going to add a teaspoon or so of salt and pepper. Smells amazing already. All right, we're just going to let that saute for about 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, once your onions and your celery start to soften, we are ready to add our garlic. And I have 3 cloves of chopped garlic here. And then we're also going to add our apple. I left the peeling on my apple. If yet that doesn't appeal to you, you can certainly peel it. I just think it adds a lot of pretty color and extra nutrition. We're going to let that cook for about a minute. How beautiful that looks already. Okay, once you start to smell the garlic, you're good. Then we're going to take our ½ cup of wine and we're going to deglaze our pan. And again, you can skip that part, but it does add really nice flavor in the background. And you just want to cook off the alcohol. That takes about a minute. Okay, after your wine has cooked off, we are ready to add our sausage mixture to our bread cubes. Let's pour that all in. We're going to give it a good mix. Okay, now we are going to add our seasoning. I'm going to add about a tablespoon and a half to 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. And I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of poultry seasoning. Your seasonings are all to taste, so use what you think would appeal to you. And then we're going to stir in some stock. Now I'm using home canned turkey stock. You could also use chicken. You could use vegetable. It's up to you. We want about 2 to 2.5 cups of stock. Give that a stir. We're going to add about 3/4 cup of dried cranberries. And you can adjust that amount to your liking. But it adds beautiful color. Look at all those beautiful colors. Okay, I'm gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes so that it can absorb some of my liquid. But before we do that, I'm going to add 2 beaten eggs. I've already beat them pretty well. And I'm gonna add just a little bit of stock to that just to temper the eggs a little bit so they don't scramble when we mix it together. Mix all that together, and then we're just gonna let it sit for 5 minutes or so, and then we're gonna put it in a buttered baking dish and bake it in the oven. My stuffing mixture has sat for about 5 minutes to absorb some of the liquid. You want to make sure that you have plenty of liquid on it. I do not like dry stuffing, so that's why I like to let it sit to see if it's going to absorb the liquid and to see if I need to add more. But I'm pretty spot on. Okay, so now for baking it, you have a couple of options. If you used a cast iron skillet or any skillet that's oven safe, and is large enough, you can go ahead and pop it back into the skillet that you used to saute everything. Or you can use a buttered baking dish. It's entirely up to you, but we already have some great flavor in here. So I think I'm just gonna pop mine back into my cast iron skillet. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so pretty. So pretty. All right, just kind of smooth it out so that it's even. Then the other option you have is you can bake it covered and then uncover it to get it crispy on top, or you can just bake it completely uncovered. We tend to like the top of it quite crispy and browned. So I'm just gonna bake mine off uncovered, but you can cut your baking time or divide your baking time. It's entirely up to you, but we're gonna want it to bake 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm gonna pop mine in just as is. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you that is kind of fun to do, especially if you are feeding a crowd. If you don't want to do it the easy way and just put it all into a casserole dish or back into a pan and bake it all together, I have in the past, and my family does enjoy this, is making individual servings of it. And the way I do that is I just use a large ice cream scoop. And then you just scoop it up, and then you have individual servings, put them in a casserole dish individually, and then bake it off that way. My family loves that, and it's really nice if you're having a larger crowd. You can have individual servings of stuffing, and it's kind of cool to do that. But for today's purposes, I just popped it all in together. So I'm gonna put mine in the oven just as is. So we're gonna bake it off until it's beautifully browned and crunchy on top. And when we get there, I will bring you back. Okay guys, we are all done. It took about 35 minutes at 375 degrees to get nice and golden brown on top and to be perfectly done. So I've let it sit for about 5 minutes, so we are ready to take a peek and test it. Looks so pretty. Just love it. So many great flavors in there. Show it to you. See, you can see the beautiful cranberries, celery, the onion, the gorgeous sausage, and that beautiful sourdough. Sourdough is perfect for making a delicious stuffing. So before we taste it, how about a little slathering of some homemade turkey gravy? And yes, I do have a video on how to make your own homemade turkey gravy down across the top. Who wouldn't want to eat that, right? Okay, let's give it a taste and see how we did. I love the combination of the sweet from the apples and the cranberries with that savory sage from the sausage. It smells amazing. Still really hot. Oh my goodness, so much great flavor in there. Have those chewy cranberries and then the crunch, a little bit of crunch from your top being crispy and a little bit from the celery. So good. So perfect for Thanksgiving, especially if you want to try something a little bit different, something that's not so traditional. The one thing I did want to mention is you could also add some crushed pecans or chopped pecans to this. Would be fantastic as well if you want to jazz it up even more. And you guys, that wine in there is fantastic. It adds so much flavor. But like I said, you don't identify it as wine. It's just kind of in the background, but really, really tasty. Now the other thing that I wanted to share is you could turn this into cornbread stuffing. You can totally do this with cornbread. You could use half and half. You could do half regular bread, the sourdough or whatever bread you like, and then half cornbread would be fantastic. And as a matter of fact, the pumpkin cornbread that I have on my channel would be fantastic in here. You're going to add another layer of beautiful fall flavor to this delicious dish. So lots of options. Anyway, I hope that you will give it a try. I'm so glad you joined me today. I hope that you are glad you joined me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.